Hello, welcome back to Beat the Lockdown. We are now going to be discussing with Pete and Tom about the Festival Face-Off playlists that were released last week. Both of these going back to Glastonbury 2010. First playlist will be artists from the main stage, not including the headliners. And the second playlist is from the other stage, which is Glastonbury's second stage. If you are looking to follow along with the playlists up, then the links will be down below in the above the comments box. Right, we will start off with main stage. Let's do Pete first.
Okay, so this was not the easiest one for me. Most of the tracks I sort of like on here, I don't really like all that much. I'm not sort of kind of passionate about them. But I went for A-Punk, Vampire Weekend, which, like, I really love that first Vampire Weekend album. I don't think this is the best track on there, but it's certainly one I'm more than happy to listen to.
One thing I would say about Vampire Weekend is, just picking up on the Arctic Monkeys story from the previous chat, is if someone had come to you and said, do you want to go and watch this band called Vampire Weekend? It's a more ridiculous name.
Well, I tell you what, I would have thought they were... Say that again, sorry, Pete?
I don't think it's as ridiculous if you use the word as Arctic Monkeys.
No, but I think it evokes a very different type of band to who they are. For me, if someone was called Vampire Weekend, given the era of, what was popular at the time, I would have imagined that they would have been a band aimed at late teens, wearing lots of black t-shirts, mass-produced sort of band t-shirts, lots of angst, that kind of stuff.
I think it's more. I would picture more of a Blink-182 kind of band, rather than sort of a gothy kind of band. But
I had a real big goth vibe from them when I first heard the name.
It sounds like, to me, it sounds like quite a fun band. And I think with their first album, it kind of is kind of a fun.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we're not talking about the band name.
So choice number 2.
What is number 2? Number 2 is Take Your Mama by Seasick Steve, which is just a great song. Yeah, they weren't really my sort of bag at the time, and I guess they're kind of still not really. But there's no denying that the singles I heard from them were all just really good pop songs. I don't think anyone can kind of argue with that.
Even the Pink Floyd cover.
I think that's a good cover because it's very different.
Yeah.
They've managed to spin it into a whole different kind of story, I guess.
Yeah. I think the problem with that cover is people applaud it. Some people applaud it because for that exact reason it's different. Like they've at least made it different. A lot of people heavily dislike it though, for that very same reason, which is it. A lot of people see it as it's been completely butchered.
No, I don't see it that way. But you're never going to please everyone all the time.
You're not.
I applaud anyone who can take a song that kind of makes you think or feel one thing, and totally spin it around and make it quite upbeat and completely change the arrangements and stuff. I mean, it's
definitely on that list of, the Scissor Sisters have covered Pink Floyd. Oh, I did not see that coming, kind of thing. So fair play.
Their first single. I think it was their first single, or at least their second. So I don't think anyone really saw it coming.
Comfortably Numb. Yeah. I think it was like their fourth, wasn't it?
I don't know. I know it was on their first album. I put the Lightning Seeds, Life of Riley, which is just, again, that's just such a beautiful little pop song.
Yeah.
It's I don't think anyone can dislike that, and I think a lot of people probably associate it with football as well. Was it Match of the Day or something it was on?
It was football. Was it Football Focus's? Maybe not Football Focus. It was a show on the BBC, I think.
Yeah. I
But-
don't know, not being a football fan, I don't know, but I do know it was on that, and it does sort of have that association with now for people.
But yeah, the video for it is sort of iconic moments in football, which is quite good fun.
And fourth, I went for looking at this list, that Dizzy Rascal one. I really liked that at the time, but now it just, I know it's a little cheesy at the time, but now it's too cheesy to bear a little bit. It's incredibly dated.
And I think that.
So I ended up going for The Highwayman by The Highwaymen.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Which is just again, country isn't really my thing either, but I think that's what makes a good song, is if it can sort of transcend its genre and its traditional fan base as well. It's just it's very evocative. I think it's really good.
Yeah. Let's go with Tom.
My first two were the same as yours, Vampire Weekend and the Scissor Sisters. So they've been discussed. Similar to you, like with Dance With Me, I did consider it, but I think listening it for a second time after sort of having to go back, I thought, no, there's no chance that I couldn't listen to it a second time. Oddly, like looking at the actual playlist, I did think going through it, like this was a really random setup that they had going on this year. There's no real.
This is part of the genius, really, of Glastonbury, though, is that whereas with Reading and Leeds, or a lot of other festivals, you kind of what you're going to get. This is what, when I went to Glastonbury, I loved about Glastonbury, which is not only is there a vast amount more to go and watch, because there's double figures of tents to go and see stuff, but if you decide to just camp out at the main stage all day, which I would, if you ever go, I wouldn't suggest you do that, but some people just do that all weekend, then you're just going to get a complete spectrum of music. You look at this, and to move from Dizzy Rascal to Willie Nelson, to Scissor Sisters, to Shakira, you go up and down, and it means that you can sit and watch it all day, because you're kind of getting a bit of chill out during the day, and they do really think out the listings of the who's on when, and the slots that they're in. I mean, this is by no means everyone that appeared on the main stage. There were other artists, but I wanted to keep the playlist down to a sort of relatively sensible number.
Yeah.
But
see, like, I went through, and once I got beyond Scissor Sisters, I was sort of scrolling down, and I thought, I'm going to really struggle to find any more here that I'm super keen on. And then just at the bottom, Seasick Steve popped up, and I was thinking, that's a save. Love Seasick Steve. So he's definitely getting in there, because I could watch him just to see what sort of instrument he's made and what he's going to try and play, because I think he's fascinating. Maybe do Paloma Faith, because it's a song that isn't bad.
It is a song, definitely.
It's on the list because it's a song.
Exists, yeah.
So I immensely dislike that song. I find her quite screechy. I don't really like her anyway, but like it actually, I have to, like, physically, I'm like,
I don't know, Paloma Faith. I can understand why people like her. I don't overtly dislike her. I'm just not a fan. So yeah, I mean, have you picked your fourth?
No, fourth was Faithless, because I gave up. I just chose Faithless because it was a decent track.
I'd have picked that as a fifth.
Yeah.
But we weren't allowed five.
My four picks, and then we can dismantle some bits if we want. So my four picks were Life of Riley, Lightning Seeds. Lightning Seeds are one of my favourite bands, or at least were at a particular time. And I got to see them for the first time at that Glastonbury. So was pretty chuffed with that. And yeah, Life of Riley's a great track. Not my favourite track of theirs, but is a good track. We Come One, Faithless, that was a definite for me. I've always been a fan of Faithless. When you're looking at their more well-known sort of mass-produced tracks, I actually prefer We Come One to Insomnia. The version that is on this playlist is the radio edit. The full edit's a lot better. We Come One, I think, is my favourite track by Faithless. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And again, having seen them live that year at Glastonbury, they were fantastic. I also had Seasick Sisters, Take Your Mama. Great pop rock tune, you know. They were a group. They were a really nice breath of fresh air when they came around, because they were probably more on the poppier side of that genre and that period, but you had a lot of bands at the time, so like your Razorlights and your Libertines and people like that, and it was all about
a bit scuzzy, wasn't it? A bit dirty, and they were kind of just...
and it was just so nice to just have this beacon of kind of bright lights, bright costumes, stuff like that. And probably at the time, a lot of people were like, "Oh, yeah, do one. You're not part of this genre." But actually, when we look back, it was nice to have that contrast. And also one of those wonderful situations where they had struggled in the US market, no traction at all. A lot of the thought process behind that, in terms of when you watch interviews by the members of the band, they thought was because of their sexuality and the way that they were on stage, and they were just embraced by the UK, and they absolutely loved playing in the UK because of that, because they essentially had their had the UK and certain other areas of Europe to thank for their success in the end.
I don't know if it was Scissors that started it, but around that time, I think a few bands decided that they were going to start their, like American bands, were going to like start their mission to success in the UK because it seems to be something that works. So I think like the Bravery maybe were one of those bands, and also what was that band Orson? I think they started here as well. I don't think they really ever made it, but they got a possibly number one, but at least a big hit out of their first couple of tunes, I think, with the aim of like, we've set up a success fan base, and we can transfer over.
From what I understand of it, anyway, I could be incorrect, but with the Scissor Sisters, it was less of a planned thing. It was more just a kind of like last hope kind of thing, because they'd been gigging in small clubs in New York and places like that, and just getting no traction at all, because people were just not. But to be honest, they had the personality. They needed a big stage. So if you saw them in a club, they would not come across as well as they were built for festivals. Like they owned a stage, they got a crowd going, and love them or hate them, love or hate their cover of Pink Floyd, love or hate their longevity or lack of.
Are they still going?
They're still knocking about as artists. I don't know whether they're
hiatus or something like that.
But yeah, I just thought they're a great breath of fresh air, and that is a great pop rock song. My fourth, I changed when I brought the list back up. I promised myself I wouldn't do that this week, but I did. and it's because it was initially A-Punk Vampire Weekend, a song I absolutely loved when it came out, and I've got so sick of it now. I just can't stand listening to it. If it was Walcott or Oxford Comma, immediately in the list, but A-Punk, it's almost like torture listening to it. I just can't stand it. Weekend. So my actual fourth choice was Highwaymen by the Highwaymen. Again, echo what Pete said. Really great track. Just a good song, good lyrics, interesting by interesting artists. Not the best song ever written, but you know, as I think we've discussed, the list as a whole is a bit difficult. I mean, going back to the Dizzy Rascal track, that was definitely the EDM Calvin Harris. That was still the indie disco Calvin Harris. That I think it was probably the last tune he produced in that kind of genre. But that was definitely the acceptable in the 80s Calvin Harris, rather than the Calvin Harris we see in Ibiza every year now. So, and which, you know, it's a shame, because actually I quite liked that Calvin Harris, but you're right, that tune has not aged well at all, and is actually probably a weak track from that album, that Dizzy album. Corin Bailey Ray, just not my cup of tea.
So I'd happily have it on. I'd never choose to put it on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a song that if it was playing in the background, I wouldn't turn it off, but I don't have any particular feelings towards it. I quite like that Shakira track. As songs created for sporting events go, because I believe that was for the South African World Cup, Football World Cup. And I think it's since been used for something else as well, another sporting event. As songs created for sporting events go, that's just quite a good one. Jack Johnson, could have picked it, but again, I'm a bit bored of that song.
I went to uni with someone in Halls who absolutely, when he was just kind of getting sort of big, she absolutely loved Jack Johnson, and I really didn't like her, so that might have coloured my my thoughts on that a little bit.
That you know, that poor girl, you know, probably gonna watch this video and be like, oh, I always thought we got on.
No,
she knew. That's
right, fine. Okay. Anyway, so our overall choices with that one, you both picked A-Punk, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So I have to listen to that song again. Great. We all picked Scissor Sisters.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Okay, so Take Your Mama is on there as well.
Highwayman.
Riley, two of us picked that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, We Come One, picked by me and Tom. And Highwaymen as well, but Walking Man missed out, unfortunately, Tom, because you were the only one that picked it. So are all of yours in that list again, Pete? Oh, disgusting. This is disgraceful. For anyone who hasn't watched the debut singles video yet, all of Pete's selections were selected.